And I'm Laura Fuchs, president of the Washington Teachers Union, joined by several members of COPE, as well as our general vice president, Lisa Haynes, who is on with us. And this is the Washington Teachers Union's candidate forum for Wards 1 and for mayoral candidates. We are recording this and we will put it up on our YouTube and website and share it with our members. And it's also available to public to hear what all of you have to say about education in the district. When we get to the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. I will be timing it and I will have my 30 seconds remain happy face. And then my time is up, happy face. I try to be as on top of it and accurate as possible. I can be off by a couple seconds from time to time, but usually I'm pretty good at it. So while I will gently, be harshly cutting you off mid-sentence, we do ask that you try to maintain within that time frame. And I may, find a time where you look like you're about to end your sentence and cut you off if I have to. But in general, I'll be a gentle moderator on that score. Our members will be starting off we'll start off with some introductions. We'll have each of you introduce yourselves. Then our panelists, as they ask questions, will introduce themselves. And we'll kind of just go from there. We'll have some lightning round. For those who are attendees, we've turned off the chat mainly just to avoid having it kind of going off and distracting everybody. But we do have the Q&A open. We are taking questions from the audience, so we are going to reserve some time for that. So if you want to put a question in the Q&A, you can also upvote questions. I'm not going to guarantee, depending on how similar, if we have something that's unique, an upvote might not automatically mean that's the question that gets asked. The questions will go to all the candidates, so targeted questions are not really of interest in this forum to one candidate. So just note, if you're asking a question, great. You can put it in the Q&A. We would prefer WTU members to be the primary ones putting those questions in. That being said, anyone can put in a question. And we'll be monitoring that. I think that is the extent of my introduction here. So we are going to just begin with a 1 minute response from each candidate. For this one, we'll just go in alphabetical order by last name. So starting with Rashida Brown, just introducing yourself and why you're here tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Rashida Brown, DC Council candidate. I'm a 25-year DC resident, a public sector leader, and a 10-year ANC commissioner, and a Howard University School of Social Work graduate. I am also an advocate for children and families and a public policymaker who's had direct interaction with our public school systems, responsible for for advancing some of the district's education policies that our city is still implementing today. And as a daughter of a proud union member, I understand how valuable unions are for our workers. I benefited from family sustaining wages, worker protections for my dad, and union benefits that gave me a fair shot in life. And that's why I'll always fight for the wages, the benefits, and the respect that you deserve. Thank you so much for having me. I understand both the policy mechanisms and the classroom realities. And as DC Council member, you'll have a true partner in me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next candidate will be Aparna Raj.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me. My name is Aparna Raj. I'm a tenant organizer, a proud Washington Baltimore News Guild member, and the product of public schools. My dad was laid off in high school, and we didn't know if I would be able to afford to go to college. But because I had a strong public education growing up, I was able to get substantial financial aid to go to college, which eventually brought me to my first job here in DC. The life that I have now in DC, I owe to the public schools that raised me. And so I know that public schools can open up a world of opportunity for students, and that's what I'm fighting for every child in DC. I'm running for council to bring down the cost of basic necessities like rent and childcare so teachers can stay in DC and so that we can bring more stability to families and children's lives outside of school. I'm running to raise wages and give workers, especially our teachers, more power in the job, including with the right to strike and bargain over the conditions of your workplaces. And I'm running to fully fund DC schools, protect immigrant students, teachers, and parents, and fight for a free DC. And I want to say, I know today has been a really hard hard day. What happened in Minneapolis is really weighing on me, but these are the stakes that we're fighting for. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Thank you. And our final candidate tonight for Ward 1, Jackie Reyes-Yanis.
Thank you for, and good evening, President Fuchs and the Washington Teachers Union for bringing us together. I am Jackie Reyes Llanes, and I am running to be your Ward 1 warrior at the DC Council because every child in our city deserves a strong neighborhood schools, a safe classroom, and education who are supported and respected. I immigrated from El Salvador in 1990, and I became since then a part of the DCPS family ever since. As a DCPS mom, as a grandmother, I have served in the last, and I bring over 20 years in direct community service. And I would like to forget our students more than just test scores, and our teachers more than just a line item in the budget. With your endorsement, I look forward to working together to build a better DCPS that our students and teachers deserve. Mil gracias y buenas tardes.
Oh, all right, there it goes. Thank you so much. So our next questions will come from some of our WTU COPE members. They'll introduce themselves when they ask their first question, and we'll be starting with Aparna Raj for this next one. And we're starting with Michael.
Hi, uh, bienvenidas. My name is Michael Donaldson. I am a Spanish teacher and a building rep at Deal Middle School, but I was formerly the Spanish teacher at Harry Tubman Elementary School. My first question for you all is, multiple candidates have criticized the implementation of the DCPS school budgeting model and late budgeting decisions. What concrete change would you push for in the next budget cycle that gives schools stability and stakeholders real checks and balances? I think we're starting with Aparna Raj.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Michael. I think one of the major things that I will fight for is to first increase our education budget to begin with. DC public schools are underfunded as a product of as a percentage of gross state product in comparison to other states. And so I will fight to increase the funding pool more generally with wealth taxes and capital gains taxes. I will also fight to restructure our funding formula so it's more of a comprehensive funding formula to ensure that the voice of LSATs, the voice of parents, educators, and students, one, are taken more into account than they currently are with more of the student-based funding formula, and also to make sure that they have a longer timeline than the 10-day period to be able to give input. Right now, a lot of the funding decisions are largely made top-down, and our educators should have more of a voice, and we need to democratize the school budgeting process. And I will fight to try to increase funding for paraprofessional pay for teachers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're just going back down and around. So the next person will have Jackie Reyes.
Good.
Yes,
Can
we
you hear
can
me?
hear you. Yes.
Okay.
It was the same question about the school budgeting cycle to give school stability and to give stakeholders checks and balances.
Yes. And then, yes, families. And like I tell you, I'm a parent and I grew up, I went to DL too. And since night when I came from El Salvador. And one of the things that I think that families and educators and community members still struggle to clearly understand how funding decisions are made and whether they're aligned with what the law and actually requires. The baseline, staffing first. Every school should have in guaranteed core staffing, counselors, librarians, mental health supports, and specialists before we talk about cats. Realistic on and honest weights. And I can tell you about this. Additional resources must follow students who require more support, English learners, students with disabilities, newcomers, and students with experiencing poverty and housing instability. Across all awards, equity means making sure that schools serving the highest need the students are not forced to choose between essentials. As a council member, I will push for a stronger oversight, clear reporting, and budgeting process that respects the people the closest to our classrooms.
Thank you. And now Rashida Brown.
Thank you for that question. The current student funding mechanism is failing our students and creating a perverse incentive for enrollment competition rather than collaboration. Why do we still have underfunded schools serving our highest needs students? As DC Council member, I will push for data-driven weights that fully fund the actual staffing needs of our schools with librarians and schools counselors and social workers and art teachers. And as we study our current financing structure, I'll consider a hybrid model that layers on student-based funding on top of the resources to examine the full cost of a comprehensive, holistic model that works for our schools, regardless of enrollment. I have experience in my own work fighting for educational resources for our neighborhood schools as an advisory neighborhood commissioner and as a policy director at OSSI, and being a DC council member will only give me more weight towards getting the job done and delivering results. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next questioner.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Christian, and I am a reading specialist at Langley Elementary School. So our first question deals with teacher retention. All of you have identified teacher turnover as a crisis. Ward 1 experiences higher teacher turnover than some other parts of the city. Besides fair compensation, what is one Ward 1 specific action you would take to retain experienced educators in our schools? And this first one is going to go to Aparna.
Well, actually, we'll start with Jackie on this one.
Okay, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca. And I know I have a few teachers, and too many of our teachers are leaving after many reasons, then the stability that hurts students and families and the entire school system. And educators constantly tell us that they feel overwhelmed, under-supported, and ensure that they cannot build a life in the city where they can teach. We have to listen. We must listen. And that's what I would like to work with the teachers' unions very closely. The teachers need real incentives to stay, competitive pay, retention bonuses, and pathways to teachers to grow and lead without leaving the classrooms. Support inside the school, smaller class sizes where possible. I'm living that at Chapman with my granddaughter that goes there. A stronger special education and EL support and meaningful planning time. Support beyond the school, access to affordable housing, options for the educators, mental health support, and wellness resource. Voice and partnership. Teachers must be included in early policy makings, not after they're informed
Thank
or
you,
after the fact. Mil gracias.
We'll go to Rashida next.
So DC loses 20% of our teachers annually, with rates higher in wards 1, 7, and 8 schools. Turnover devastates student learning and reduces the pool of talented teachers in our workforce. As DC council member, I'll advocate for increased salaries of up to 15% for public school teachers, with an additional retention bonus for those working in high need schools, not merit-based, because we know that that's not working and it's inequitable. Under my leadership, I'll explore university partnerships, financial aid support, training and mentoring models, and networking opportunities to strengthen the pathways pipeline. And I'll also, beyond compensation, as a champion of the Bruce Monroe Redevelopment Project, I'll dedicate workforce housing that I advocated for to set aside units for our teachers, as well as protected planning time, smaller classroom sizes, and addressing resources to adequately support supplies in our schools. Thank you.
Yeah, I would fight as a union member. I understand that having more power on the job is one of the biggest impacts around retention and around morale in the workplace. I would fight for public school workers or public school teachers to have additional power, additional bargaining leverage, including being able to file for ULP strikes during teacher negotiations, being able to negotiate over impact, which is one of the largest causes of teacher turnover and has been shown to be a failure in our education system, and being able to talk about compensation levels with the public. As far as a Ward 1 specific issue, we have seen with the Harriet Tubman scares last year how school modernization, while it is necessary, can also lead to destabilization in funding because of the student-based school funding formula. So I would work to improve the stabilization of funding so that schools can get the necessary repairs that they need while not being worried about having to cut teachers or having to cut resources.
All right, and I'm going to try to remember the order. So I think the first person here is Rashida Brown to answer this question. My question is that you've all said you support, as I think Aparna Raj just said, repealing DC Code 1-617.18, which says that the WTU cannot negotiate their evaluation system. What is the single biggest obstacle to achieving that in your first year in office? And what would you do personally to repeal it? And we'll start with Rashida Brown. I'm not sure if you heard me. We'll start with Rashida Brown for that question. Can everyone hear me? Oh, yep.
Okay,
Yep, we
great.
got you.
Okay, good. Yes, so you're talking about impact. It's fundamentally broken and is driving our best educators out of our classrooms. The current structure is flawed and it doesn't improve instruction or educational outcomes for our students. It is a relic of Michelle Rhee's flawed education reforms that happened nearly 2 decades ago, and it's designed to fire teachers rather than support them. As someone who's worked at OSSI implementing policies, I've seen how punitive the system is, and it fails to take into account relational actions that students have with their teachers, culturally responsive practices, creativity in our instruction and curriculum, and the ability to effectively reach our students. Survey after survey confirms that impact is leading cause of our teachers leaving our schools and teacher turnover rates. They flee to Montgomery County and Fairfax counties where they're treated as professionals. The system is undue weighted test scores, and we're punishing our teachers in high poverty schools. And as DC council member, I'll repeal that. I'll work to repeal that and support our other council members who are wanting to address this issue, and I'll restore WTU's right to negotiate our evaluation systems. It must change. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura will help me with I think we're just going down at this point. Aparna Raj.
Yeah, thank you. The ability to negotiate over impact, teachers absolutely should have the right to do that. Impact has been a failure. It's been one of the leading causes of teacher turnover. It is based in punitive measures rather than developmental and growth measures. And it has been found to have a racial bias, disproportionately impacting teachers of color. Every workplace is able to bargain. I was able to bargain as a union bargaining co-chair on my workplace's evaluation system, performance system, and schools shouldn't be an exception. And this is a huge part of teacher morale. I think a big part of it is actually being able to work with the rest of the council. One of the biggest challenges will be actually bringing the repeal of that code to a vote and making sure that it is heard in the committee of the whole. It has not been brought for a vote. And with my experience as an organizer, I am used to organizing with folks who I may come to different positions with, trying to get them around to a specific position. And so I will bring that organizer energy to the council office to fight for the best educational outcomes and the best workplaces for our teachers.
Thank you. Uh, Jackie Reyes Yanis.
Thank you. Thank you for that very important questions. I believe that as a councilwoman, I will fight for a real voice that the teachers will have, that they are and how they are evaluated. because the evaluation should report growth and not create fear of or instability. So I will fight for that. Right now, too many educators feel that our evaluation system is something that it happens to them, not with them. Allowing the Washington teacher unions to negotiate their evaluation system will be creating a space for a more balanced approach and one that values student growth, collaboration, culturally responsive teaching, and as the professional judgment for educators. I will support repealing the DC Code 1617.18 so that evaluations can be part of the collective bargain and so the teachers can partner directly in shaping a system that is fair, transparent, and focused on professional development.
Thank
And I
you.
believe that we can trust our teachers with our children, and we should trust them to help design the system that measure their work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Chantal Fuller, and I am a teacher in Ward 4 and a Ward 8 resident. So my question is, Latino students now make up more than 22% of DCPS enrollment, yet Latino teachers represent only about 10% of the teaching workforce. Research consistently shows that students benefit from teachers who share their backgrounds, and this gap has persisted for years. What concrete steps would you take to recruit, hire, and retain more Latino educators in DCPS and in DCPS senior leadership? And I believe we start with Aparna.
Yeah, I think a major aspect is in terms of retention, like we talked about, being able to allow teachers to negotiate over impact, being able to raise pay, making sure that DCPS honors the contract and the CBA that they've negotiated with or that WTU has negotiated with them. Also, making sure that DCPS honors its agreements to international educators, make sure that it supports the sponsoring of H-1B visas so we can keep immigrant educators here in DC and making sure that they restore their green card policy so teachers can stay here and we can have that stability. We also want to improve the teacher pipeline, making sure that we can invest in the apprenticeship program for paraprofessionals to become DCPS teachers and making sure that we are able to improve the workplace in general. You know, if teacher retention is low, teachers aren't necessarily going to want to come here. Teachers aren't necessarily going to want to stay here. And making sure that we invest in Aussie's wellness grants for mental health as well.
Thank you. And I think next is Jackie. Would you like me to repeat the question or you got it?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. Latino students now make up more than 22% of DCPS enrollment, yet Latino teachers represent only about 10% of the teaching workforce. Research consistently shows that students benefit from teachers who share their backgrounds, and this gap has persisted for years. What concrete steps would you take to recruit, hire, and retain more Latino educators in DCPS and in DCPS senior leadership?
And thank you, Chantel, for that very important question because, like I said, I'm a DCPS alumni because I came to the Alice deal, and I know it was very important to have a counselor that spoke Spanish because I learned English here in Washington, D.C., and then my grandkids, and I see in the effect of having that entitlement, 75% are Latino. And then we lost enrollment because of the new school. And they even though that is 3 weeks, 3 blocks away, it makes a big difference. So having that is you're bringing that home. And as a proud Latina, immigrant and DCPS mom and a grandmother caring with someone with special needs, it's very important that someone who has spent years fighting for language access across DC, this is an issue that deeply personal is to me. I know what it feels to navigate the system that they were built for family, not like ours. And I know that we only have like three principals that are the Latino background. One of the things that I will see in the pipeline and to build trust, especially now that this is the reason why I'm running for council member, to make sure that people feel they feel that we are being treated with dignity and respect. but
Thank
not only in that, especially in DCPS. I will make sure that we have incentives for Latinos and that we make sure that our growth is is
Thank you,
is, is growing
Jackie.
in DCPS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is
Oh,
name.
sorry, we
Ms.
still
Brown.
have Rashida
Ms.
Brown.
Brown. There you go.
Sorry.
Thank you. In Ward 1, where we have many multilingual learners, teachers, they report inadequate support for staff and materials. So as DC Council member, I'll fight to increase resources to ensure that we have the necessary supports in classrooms so that students are fully engaged in their education. We need to build more robust pipeline for ELL specialists, and we can also do that to reduce proposed classroom size ratios for ELL students, and ensure that we can meet their full potential, their full learning potential. To address our workforce issues, I would like to enhance the educator pipeline by looking at apprenticeship programs, by looking at university partnerships, and other retention tools. I had mentioned that earlier, but most specifically, I think that we can revive our green card program to support immigrant teachers, to make sure that there's linguistic diversity in our classrooms. Why is DCPS not implementing that? We supported that earlier. Previously, DC Council had funded it, but it's not being implemented to scale. I believe that more work needs to be done there, and I will leverage my oversight authority as DC Council member to look at ways where we can revive that program and make sure that it is being fully implemented by council mandate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Sam Bertocchi.
Hi, my name is Sam Bertocchi. I teach first grade at Harriet Tubman Elementary School in Ward 1, and I am the WTU Vice President of Special Education. In many schools, DCPS is disbanding self-contained special education classrooms and making other policy decisions without any clear plan or reasoning. What will you do to ensure that educators have the training and support that they need, and students get the support that they need to ensure that their IEP needs are being met and fairly?
I think we're starting with Jackie on this question.
Yes. Give me one second. For the language access and the special needs. So language access, I think that is a right, uh, not a courtesy, especially interpretation, and especially in Harriet Tubman. And thank you for all the great work that you're doing at Harriet Tubman with what you have on. But multilingual communication must be timely, accurate, and available for every family in every school. And I will, as a council member, I will strong support the EL student for the smaller class size, the trained multilingual educators, and programs that honor culture and humble language while building academic success. Family partnerships, parents might have a clear pathway to advocate, file complaints, and also to get the help without fear or confusion, especially for the immigrant families.
Thank you. Brown.
Sorry, oh, was that me or?
Same, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, sorry. Rashida Brown.
Okay, good. Thank you. So as DC Council, and let me start. So as a social worker who has had students with IEPs on my caseload, who are also in foster care and had specific needs, and as a person who worked in public policy, who supported early intervention to support our early learners around their needs of inclusion, I will, as DC Council member, fight to increase resources for inclusive classrooms, physical equipment, inclusive educational materials, and work to retain and recruit those that have that training in special education. I will also explore reducing class size ratios like I proposed for ELL students. And as a workforce, we can make sure to skill up and train those educators in the pipeline so that we can get more educators in teaching special education programs and make sure that our teachers have planned and protected have a guaranteed protected planning time so that they can be able to ensure that they are prepared, have that dedicated time to prepare for classrooms, and ensure that students have what they need. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think, a major aspect is both democratizing the school decision-making process and democratizing the school funding process, allowing schools, individual schools, educators, parents, students to have more of a say in funding supports that they need and having funding specifically for counselors, for students with special needs, for any additional supports that teachers need, as well as making sure that they have more of a say in the decision-making process, making any major workplace decisions come to the bargaining table and be bargainable as part of the contract negotiated between WTU and DCPS. And one major thing that I've heard from a lot of educators is that the Power School tool that teach educators use, especially teachers with students with special needs, is that it's been really cumbersome and has effectively added a second job onto folks' workload. So I would try to reform the tool or find a new one because we should be using these monitoring and evaluation systems so that they assist teachers' work, not that they deter or harm them.
Well, so much.
Next one. Okay. Name one central office function you would reduce or eliminate and one school-based position you would fund instead.
And we're starting with Rashida Brown.
Can you repeat the question again?
Or
It was
name,
two parts.
okay, yes. Name one central office function you would reduce or eliminate and one school-based position you would fund instead.
Thank you for that. So central office, definitely we need to be reviewing how operations are being funded. While central office budgets have been cut during the pandemic, I could be leveraging my budget authority as council member to explore disparities between the central office operations and those in our classrooms. We do need to shift those allocations to support our schools. So I have got to say this. So I would eliminate any positions that lacks fiscal responsibility, is not promoting the outcomes that we need, any operations and unspent money that has gone untouched. And I would like to fund staffing as I had mentioned earlier, that holistic, that comprehensive school-based model that I love, that I think would make our students successful. I would fund, ooh, that's so hard, multiple positions, social workers, art teachers, librarians, music teachers. Pick one, name one. I don't know if I can answer that question, but I would like to, funding-wise, explore the actual cost to support those positions in schools. But we can start by pulling money from the central office. Thank you.
I think, yeah, Aparna, you'll be next.
Awesome, thank you. I would probably say that I would, first, I want to say that there are a lot of functions that make sense to house in the central office. There are, things like food contracts, things that make sense to coordinate across all of the different schools in the school system. That being said, I would probably suggest cutting the technology plan because it is very one size fits all. It's a very top-down approach, and different schools have different technological needs. Different schools have, different technological, say, like capabilities. And I think it's very important for that to be something that individual schools are able to advocate for and get as direct school support. I would also, in place of that, there is Like Rashida said, there are so many different things that could be funded. I do want to name that, schools need counselors. Not every school has a counselor. Not every school has a school nurse. Those are huge, vital supports that we need for our children to have, both for their social, emotional, mental wellness and for their health and safety.
Oh, yep, Jackie, you are up next.
Yes, and thank you for that very important questions because I agree that we should focus on things that matters, right? And where we're going right now, we need after COVID, we didn't have a time to recuperate. Right now, we need more in the classroom, more hands-on, and I would advocate for more counselors, more therapists, more librarians, more nurses. That is what is needed right now. Our families are suffering, and I will cut. If you give me as one, what I will do as a warrior is get the middleman out and get the communication piece out. But just focus on what it matters. That are the nurses, the counselors, and the therapists, and language access. That's what matters.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're gonna do two quick lightning round questions where you just have to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The first question is, will you introduce or co-introduce legislation within the first 15 days of your term to advance a green card pathway for international educators if one does not yet exist? Fantastic. We love to hear it. The second and last thumbs up or thumbs down, a little longer. The law requires that before a chancellor is selected, the mayor convenes a review panel, including WTU, teachers, parents, and students. They will share candidate information and give great weight to the WTU's recommendation. Will you commit to voting only to confirm a chancellor nominee who has gone through this process? The converse being you will reject one that does not use this process. Fantastic. So we're going to take, I think, one or two audience questions. So one we have is from James Caruso, one of our educators, I believe in Ward 1. And it's, what are your thoughts on the over-testing of students in DC? And would you advocate for more time to be spent on lessons and actual teaching and less time on testing? And I believe, uh-oh, I lost track. Are we starting with Aparna on this one? I apologize. Are we starting? I lost track. Who answered first last time? Usually so good at that.
I started with Rashida Brown, so I think we are now down to Reyes Llanos.
Okay, Jackie, thank you. So Jackie, what are your thoughts on over testing of students in DC? And would you advocate for more time to be spent on lessons and actual teaching and less time on testing?
I think I said it. Our children are more than just test scores, right? So I think that we need to make sure, and I have a 8-year-old here that we are like worrying about testing, but I would like to get more of the hands-on studying. So I will fight for that. I need to make sure that our kids, and I said it on my open remarks, our students are more than the next test score. So let's make sure that we are having quality of education for our children.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Rashida Brown.
Yes. I mean, teach to the test. I'm not a fan. It is inequitable, especially when funding is tied to test scores. And it really doesn't allow for creativity in the classroom and in curriculum, and the ability to realize our students' full potential. That good relational interactions with students, the culturally responsive practices, those are the things that matter. Those are the things that mattered to me when I was in school, when I was educated. So we've got to look at that. We've got to address that. And we know that it's failing our Black and Brown students. So anything that we can do to assess that, better address that, I'll be exploring that on DC Council.
Yeah, so I will just start with a simple answer and say that we are absolutely over testing our students, and I will fight to create a curriculum and to support work with WTU to make sure that we are spending more time on lessons and less time on testing. Over testing is a huge detriment to both teachers and students alike. Students learn better in more engaging classes when they're not just being, focused on testing, 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 when the subjects are actually things that they care about, when the reading comprehension thing is about a musician they like or a sport that they like, as opposed to just, like very, very sort of rigid, archaic kind of passages or texts. And it's also another big teacher morale issue and teacher retention issue is, do teachers have a voice in their curriculum that they're setting? Do teachers have flexibility in what they're teaching? Are they just being, themselves sort of graded to the test along with their students? And so it will absolutely fight to reduce the over testing culture that we have.
Thank you. I think in the spirit of, we'll do one more question also from James. Thank you, James. Which is, how would you work with current and future council members to increase the power of the State Board of Education in decision-making and oversight for DCPS and DC public charter schools? And we'll start with Rashida.
Okay, here's what we need. An elected school board with budget authorities and key powers over responsibilities that selects our chancellor, ward-based education councils with binding input on school decisions, not advisory roles, equitable governance across sectors, and shared accountability systems and processes, and shifting our education matters out of the committee of the whole and onto our dedicated educated education committee. I'm a real fan of Council Member Zachary Parker's legislation that provides some authorities for our school board, but it's one step, it's one incremental step. We have more work to do, and I will support that and Council Members Parker's legislation on the council in the new council period. Thank you.
All right, next we have Aparna.
Yeah, so I will fight to democratize our school system and our school decision-making process. I will fight to bring the Office of the State Superintendent of Education under the control of the State Board of Education, which is how it works in the majority of states, and make sure that, State Board of Education members who are often teachers, often current or former teachers who have experience in the classroom have more of a say and more decision-making authority in our educational system. I will, if I'm elected, I will work with other WT endorsed council members and council members in general, but I think WT endorsed council members are a great starting point in terms of people who maybe align with more of the democratic decision making around school systems. And to try to bring OSSE under the State Board of Education control and make sure that parents, teachers, and students have more of a say in the school system. And I will fight to bring more transparency to our school system, including by making sure that our public charter schools are held to the same accountability and transparency standards as our public schools more generally.
Thank you. And Jackie.
Thank you for that question because I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm in the end in receiving services here, and I have my granddaughter at Tubman and two at Mundo Verde, and I know the inequality that the charter schools and the CPS have. As a council member, I will work with the council members to bring them to a real oversight with the charter schools because the services are different, and that's what I see the inequality of funding. So I know that people deserve a clear and accessible information for school performance and finances and discipline practices for the school culture. So I know that that will be in my first 30 days that I will look into this.
Thank you. So we're now at the point where we will do closing statements. You each get 1 minute to kind of just make your final case to our WT members present and the public at large on why you are the best choice for us to support in this election. And I believe we are starting with Jackie.
So I will finish with this. Our children deserve the best. I'm a product of a DCPS. I'm speaking English because I had caring teachers. And I'm now and I that's why I have my kids in World One. I grew up my kids in World One and I believe in the system. So I'm looking for your endorsement because I want to work with you guys. I want to make sure that you guys are in the table when decisions are taking place. I want to meet quarterly with you. I don't want to end at the when a bargain is meeting and people are doing so. I want to make sure that you have a real voice. The LSAT members, we have a real voice in this decision making because our children deserve the best. Mil gracias.
Thank you. And Rashida.
Thank you for having me. As an advisory neighborhood commissioner who's advocated for increased funding and modernization of our neighborhood schools, a social worker who's worked with educators and students within foster care with IEPs, and a DC government leader who authored the district's pre-K report, sections of our city's S estate plan, led the implementation of PKEEP. I know education policy because I've written it, I've implemented it, and I fixed it when it didn't work. We need teachers at the center of our policymaking efforts. You are the experts. Our teachers need to be respected. And WTU, there's more work that needs to be done. We need bold, experienced leaders who will get the job done, one who understands the work of our unions and possesses the knowledge and demonstrated leadership to deliver results on day one. And that person is me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Aparna.
Yeah, we are in a crisis moment right now, and it takes somebody who will really fight for people and fight for working class people and for workers across DC, including teachers right now. I am running to make DC more affordable, to empower workers and build labor power for our teachers, and to stand up for DC and for immigrants, especially in Ward 1. I have been on Ice Watch and, walked around my ward trying to look out and make sure that students can get to school safely. I have volunteered with Bancroft Safe Streets to make sure that students are safe from traffic safety. I stood with WTU during contract negotiations 2 years ago, and that is the spirit that I will bring as a council member. I will fight to make sure that MPD is held to account and does not collaborate with ICE, so students aren't afraid to go to school. I will use my constituent services office to coordinate resources and coordinate aid in Ward 1, so in that way families have what they need if they're afraid to go to school. I will fight to make sure that we have an advocate, not just someone who will be a vote, but who will really fight for WTU, for teachers and workers to be able to afford to live here and be able to stay here for the long term.
Thank you so much for participating in our forum. The way that our process works internally, our COPE committee after the forum will convene to discuss recommendations on endorsement, but those get made to our entire representative assembly who then vote in the next week. So we want to make sure our members have a very strong say over the choices the WT makes as we move forward. So we can't make, any promises as to what will happen there, but we appreciate very greatly your time. We will be sharing the questionnaires after the forum with the video and everything. So for members, if there was a question that maybe didn't get answered, you can check out our candidates' questionnaire responses. We appreciate that all of you put a lot of thought into them, and we do we've enjoyed reading them. So thank you. We're going to now transition to our mayoral race.